If you hear a cliche and you immediately dismiss it without trying to understand how it is that something became so simplified and so ubiquitous, then you're missing value. You're missing the chance to learn something by putting a little bit of something in order to get something out. A cliche is not necessarily something that you should dismiss immediately. A lot of cliches are just tried and true, condensed insight into what it means to actually exist. Those can be incredibly valuable. Welcome to episode 22 of Sitting in Strange Places with Jeremiah. Today I want to talk about cliches, bad advice, or advice that seems too good and too simple to be true. A lot of times when we are going about our lives and we are listening to what people are telling us or reading a book, we start sorting what we're hearing by easily understood buckets. So we have deep wisdom and we have usefulness and we have good quotes for repeating. And then we have things like bad advice that we immediately dismiss. And then we have cliches, which oftentimes we completely dismiss. You should not reflexively dismiss any of these things, not the cliches, not the bad advice, not the things that are too simple and good to be true to seem true. You shouldn't dismiss any of that. You should actively engage with all of these pieces of information that you're taking in order to be able to reap benefit from them. So here's the cliche: what you put in is what you get out. It's the same exact thing that applies here, in that when you're given bad advice, if you reflexively dismiss that advice, you receive no benefit from it. Whereas if you think about the bad advice, you look at where it's coming from, there was a reason why it was given to you, so why is that? If you put in that effort and that thinking, you can gain something from that. Cliches: what you put in is what you get out. If you hear a cliche and you immediately dismiss it without trying to understand how it is that something became so simplified and so ubiquitous, then you're missing value. You're missing the chance to learn something by putting a little bit of something in order to get something out. A cliche is not necessarily something that you should dismiss immediately. A lot of cliches are just tried and true, condensed insight into what it means to actually exist. Those can be incredibly valuable. So when you reflexively dismiss them, you're missing out on an entire world of value that could have been yours had you not just reflexively dismissed the bad advice, the cliches. And honestly, at the beginning of things, when you are at a stage when you feel like there's so much you need to learn, which should be most of us, if not all of us, you can learn from anything. You can learn from bad advice. You can learn from cliches. You can learn that when you receive bad advice, if you actually engage with it and analyze it without actually using it to apply to your life, it will give you more perspective on what good advice is. And that's an incredible perspective to be able to have. Cliches. Cliches should not be dismissed simply because they're simple. Perhaps you should analyze them and think about them to try to understand how such a complex thought is broken down into something so simple. And maybe that will help you communicate advice and things that you want to help other people with in the future. But you won't know unless you engage with it. So ultimately, it's your choice. Dismiss cliches and bad advice and things that seem too good to be true, or engage with them in order to learn from them and grow in the process.